Welcome to another episode of NextGenDDS. This is one of your co-hosts, Mario Santiago, Tax and Business Planning Advisor here at McGill & Lyon Dental Advisors. And with me, I have Dr. Scott Menaker, who helps doctors with biorepresentation services. Scott, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mario. Hope you're doing well.
Doing okay. So we're excited as continuing this season about money and specifically a little bit about debt. We've started off the season about the good, the bad, and the ugly as it relates to debt. We spent last episode talking about hey, what is some good debt that's really going to set you up for success down the road if done right? But now today we want to talk a little bit about what's the debt that you should either completely avoid or just be a little bit more cautious with in how you're looking at that debt.
Absolutely. Right. Because obviously the biggest thing is the banks typically are going to loan you money when they think they're going to get paid back.
Mm-hmm.
But if you you can't pay the bank back, if something happens with the practice, do you think they're going to let you out of that debt? I don't think so, unless you declare bankruptcy.
Well, hey, that's why a lot of times you need to have life insurance tied to the note, or collateral, right?
I get asked that question. That may be a whole nother dilemma. But we really want to talk about kind of the bad debt piece from both a practice and a personal side of things.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about it all comes in order. Hey, we want you to have the house, the car, the nice things, but we don't want to do it at the detriment of your own mental sanity and your finances. So, I had a good example the other day, Scott, of how I wouldn't do it. I heard of this friend of a friend kind of thing, dentist, and it's like, hey, they graduated dental school, they got their first job at a practice somewhere as an associate, and the first thing they did was buy themselves a nice car just because they thought they deserved it, right? It's like, hey, I graduated dental school. I got a first job. I'm going to be making six figures. I'm going to get myself a new car. Look. Not the greatest idea. And don't get me wrong, Scott. You're going to have, just telling you anecdotally from everyone I've worked with, you're probably going to have a decent car at some point, and it's not going to ruin you financially. It's just going to be how it is. But that's probably not the first thing you need to be worried about when you're in your mid to late 20s, starting off your career.
Yeah, and having a $600-700 a month car payment.
Yep.
That scares me today. And I've retired and have, from my practice, we did some great financial planning. I have plenty of funds. That scares me.
Yeah.
And a little bit I think, if you look at debt somewhat a little bit from a standpoint of a little bit being scared, meaning, let me just make sure I understand this right. Then the good debt side can really happen.
Yeah.
You're talking about this debt. I had a guy I met, I was playing golf with a friend of mine. He joined at a very nice country club. Again, he's in a position to do that, but there was a dentist there who had joined with two young kids, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. I think he had a good practice. I don't think it was doing great because he was asking me about should he sell to a DSO. I told him no without even looking at anything because I said, but he had joined this club and I know that it was a 6-figure initiation. The monthly, I can't imagine what the monthly is.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about his waiting on his brand new Tesla, whatever that pickup or SUV or whatever it is to arrive.
The Cybertruck?
Yeah, the Cybertruck. And I'm just thinking to myself, I was scared for him. I was absolutely petrified.
Well, because we do this for a living, Scott, is like, I think most people out there look at their neighbors and their friends and they say, hey, how do they have this nice life and I don't? Right? Like maybe dentists are looking at each other and saying, look, I'm a dentist. They're a dentist. How come they have all these nice things? And what they don't realize, because we're looking under the hood, is everyone's up in here with debt, right? Car loans, credit card debt, home loans. And people aren't doing as well as you might think just because they appear that they're doing well.
That's right. The appearances can be deceiving, I think, is really... Because we all we want to keep up with the Joneses, whatever that expression came from. But don't keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
It's everybody wants you to buy, whether it's Listen, I buy my wife jewelry. We have cars. We have a home. You know, we've gone backwards. You know, it's just the two of us. We're in a 2,300 square foot ranch.
Hmm.
Could I be in a $4,000 square foot brand new condo for $2 million? I could. We wouldn't be going on trips and vacations, and I wouldn't be giving
Yeah.
all of our grandkids and our kids, you know, vacations and sharing with them. And
That's where you have to decide what's important to you, right, Scott? And I think a lot of people, it's like, look, if you like material things and you can afford it, great. If you'd rather spend your money on experiences, great. But let me tell you, if you have the material things and you have all this debt and you also want to do the experience stuff and travel the world and things like that, you might be putting yourself in a bind.
right, right. So the first bad debt thing that we see a lot is cars.
Yeah.
If you need a car, great, go get a car, and you can go get a decent car. You
Yep.
just don't have to go get an $80,000 to $100,000 car.
I had a doctor, Scott, who they were in pretty bad financial shape. Back to the previous point of on paper, hey, he had the nice car, nice house. On paper, this doctor was crushing it. You look behind the scenes, car payment of like almost $4,000 a month. That's higher than some people's mortgages. So that's the kind of decision where it's like, oh my gosh, like no wonder you're in debt and you don't have any savings. Your car
Right.
payment's higher than a lot of people's mortgages. So,
So that I mean, so we're talking obviously cars. The first one that most students are going to do, and then the next one's going to be, you know, potentially, do I buy a house? We've talked a little bit about that.
yeah.
Maybe you wait a little bit. You know, is this a good time, a good location? Is the house going to hold its value? We see people, and I think a lot of people probably, coming out of COVID, everybody started buying homes, and then rates went up, and everybody kept buying homes, and rates went from 3% to 7.5%, 8%.
Yeah. And that changes
That changes
a
it's
lot
a
of
huge
things, right? That
dynamic.
payment's going to change a lot.
Because then if you end up with a house with that kind of debt service, you're underwater. I have a friend of mine, his daughter and her husband bought a condo in I think in DC, and the market changed.
Hmm.
And 2 years later, unfortunately, they're getting divorced, but they've got a condo that's over $100,000 underwater. If they go sell it today, they've each got to come up with $50,000 that they don't have to pay this off. So be smart. Just because somebody says you can afford it doesn't mean, we keep harping on this, but just because somebody says you can afford it doesn't mean it's
And who's telling you can afford it, Scott?
the car salesman.
Right? It's like the bank. Sure, the bank wants you to buy the house, and the
They never
car
want to.
shop wants you to buy the car.
They never want to talk about. They never want to talk about the cost of the car. They want to talk about the payment.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, Scott. If we're going back on the car thing, I was at the dealer probably 2 years ago, and I was just getting my routine maintenance, and I don't know what happened, but next thing you know, I'm in front of a sales guy, and someone's trying to, I just bought my car probably 4 or 5 years ago, and they're trying to have me buy the new model of the car, and they're putting all these papers in front of me. They never asked me what I do for a living, which I thought was a mistake. But they put this piece of paper in front of me, and nowhere on the paper is the price of this new car they want me to buy. It's just 3 columns with different monthly payment options. Hey, you could have a new car for the same monthly payment as you have now. That's where a lot of people get tricked into buying the new car. We always joke, it's like, picture that you're paying full price for the car. Would you walk up to that dealer and
Absolutely.
pay $80,000 on the spot for that car? Because that is what you're paying, and more with interest. So don't try to justify it as, oh, well, it's only a $400 monthly payment. And I'm guessing for the house, same thing. It's like, who's telling you to go for it? The bank or your advisor? And I have another good example, Scott, of this couple. Like, they really wanted to buy, upsize their house as their family was growing. But they're looking at something like, $2.5 million in certain parts of the country. And, that may sound like a lot, but you go to California and that's just a normal house in some parts of California.
Yeah, right. That's right.
But what I told them was, look, I'm fine if you do this once your practice hits X numbers,
Sure.
right? So instead of buying the house now, and some of these mortgages will be 10 to 15,000 a month, instead of getting into that and your practice isn't where it needs to be, and now you can't save, and now you're stressed at home. And what do people argue about the most, Scott, at home? Money.
It's always money.
So
Everything is.
yeah, so it's just a recipe
Yeah.
for disaster. So that's why in this situation, it's like, look, let's grow the practice or cut overhead by doing X, Y, and Z. In a year or two, you'll be in a position to get that house
That's
if
right.
you have some patience.
That's right. You always want to have a buffer, and most people live. And this is where we go to the bad debt, which is where you don't have a buffer.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens if something changes? What happens if there's an emergency? You talk
Yeah.
about having some emergency money that you can get access to. It used to be in a money market account. I'm sure you're not advising people to do that too much today, but there's got to be some way that you can get some cash should you need it. But you want to be able to have money.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be able to, and this is the bad debt where somebody is just pulling out the next card.
Yep.
And
it
the
spirals,
problem is,
right?
how many cards do they have? So you got 3 cards with $30,000 on them. You don't think about it in debt. They go, well, yeah, I'm paying the $30 a month minimum payment. That's going to take me 37 years. I don't know. I'm just making that up.
Yeah.
But it's going to take you.
It could be right.
You're never going to pay it off
No, the problem is
at
it spirals.
27% or whatever they're charging you.
Yeah.
So the credit card debt, again, one we'll talk about, is just horrible.
That's probably the worst. Scott.
Horrible.
So credit card debt, like you said, you're looking at interest rates of over 20%. When you have credit card debt, all it really means is you're spending more than you can afford to.
You're living beyond your
You're
means.
living beyond your means, right? Because like we said, look, buying the car, financing a car is pretty normal. Financing a house is pretty normal, right? Versus buying it cash. But purchasing things on credit and not being able to pay your credit card, that's just big no-no. And it just spirals, Scott. Like now that you said that, some of these examples I'm talking about are coming into my head of like, okay, it starts with the car and the home. Okay, then the practice or your job isn't really supporting those things. So then you're going into credit card debt, but you haven't fixed the root of the issue, which is you're spending too much and you're not making enough. So then next thing you know, you're opening a line of credit. And next thing you know, you're using the line of credit more. And next thing you know, you're
going into your 401k
and next
or
thing you know,
your
you borrow
IRA
from your 401k. And it's just, it's a
And I have a friend of
wheel.
mine who did that with
and getting out of that is a nightmare.
Yeah, they're using his wife's 401k to help pay for business losses in their business, and they're never ever going to be able to retire. I mean, I'm not even saying even getting Social Security. I don't know where they're gonna live.
Yeah.
And it's sad. So your credit card. My father kind of just ingrained in me, if you can't pay it off at the end of the month, then throw the card away.
Yeah. No, and I think
And it's a good motto to have.
Best advice ever, because I think you said something in one of the last episodes is, look, these credit card companies, there's a reason their names are on the biggest buildings in the biggest cities in the world. They're making money, and they're making money off you not paying your credit card. So the way they get you to spend more is through points, rewards, and everybody's always, I went out to dinner once with someone and they wanted to take the whole bill for dinner. They wanted to pay for the whole bill and we were just going to Venmo them for our portion of dinner. And then they proceed to tell me that they're going to have to dip into their after-tax brokerage account, liquidate investments in order to pay the credit card bill. But they paid for dinner just because they wanted points.
Right.
And it's just like,
and then it just becomes out of sight, out of mind.
yeah. And the points are, if you know, don't get me wrong, if you know how to work the point system and the miles and all that stuff, and you're paying your credit card on time, yeah, you can travel for free and things like that.
I used to put all of, I'm not sure if they still let you do it, but all of the dental supply companies, the labs,
the business expenses,
they always loved to automatically swipe your credit card. And we had a big practice. I could have I could get 30, 20, 30, 40,000
Yeah.
points every month.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't cost me a dime. But I also knew I was writing that check every month.
Yes.
That there was zero being, held on that.
Yeah.
So, and I had a couple credit cards.
Yeah,
And
but
so-
if you can't manage it like that, Scott, right? If you're trying to get the points, but you can't pay the credit card time, it's time to just ditch the
or
credit
you're
card.
just buying something that you shouldn't buy.
Yeah. So that's really the biggest thing. If you're looking to, let's say you have a project at home, Scott, a home renovation or, kitchen renovation, whatever, and you can't really afford it and you're looking to credit in order to be able to do things, it's time to rethink whether you can actually afford
What we would say is
project.
go save that money, go put it in a savings account that earns no interest, but it's just out of the way.
Yep.
It's just something that you just
Yeah.
know you're not going to use.
So credit card, a big no-no. Car, we all know it's not a great investment. Just make sure that, hey, does that payment fit into your situation? Is the stage in your life, does it make sense to get that kind of car now? I'll add one more thing to the car, Scott. Like, let's say you graduate and your plan is to buy a practice at some point, and you work as an associate for a couple of years. Look, if you delay the new nice car purchase to when you own a practice, then you can get a tax deduction for that vehicle if you buy the car through the practice versus getting that nice car right off the bat, paying full price and not getting any deduction for it. So it's just about sometimes delaying gratification a little bit. We talked about the house, right? The house needs to make sense. Don't go buy a $3 million house right as you start off because, like I said, let me tell you, I've had people come back and say, look, the $10,000 a month mortgage is a big stressor and we kind of regret doing that. So you don't want to have those kind of regrets. Any other bad debt? Scott,
I
that
know
we
you're
should
talking
mention?
about the house in our neighborhood. A lot of it's an older neighborhood, but a lot of decent sized lots, ranch homes, which are in more high demand.
Yeah.
But what they're doing now is they're tearing them all down and they're building these $2.5–3 billion homes. And my wife and I are out walking our dog almost every day, and we see this couple that look to be in their 30s in their driveway, and we just look at each other, and go, how are they affording this house? Now, and I guess somewhere along the way they are affording it, but I know our president talked about a 50-year mortgage. I mean, okay. I mean, that's a bad plan. I think any financial person would tell you, now might it help you afford it, but you're never gonna. I mean, it's gonna take you 40 years to 30 years to get equity in the thing.
But it depends what your version of affording is, right?
Right. That's right.
Let's say you make $15,000 a month after taxes. Well, yeah, you can spend $15,000 a month if you wanted to, but 20 years down the road, when you're looking at your retirement nest egg and you're trying to think about retiring and you have nothing,
that's right.
Okay, you gotta be able to live with that situation. So, if you start off, we've talked about this a ton, Scott. It's like, look, max the 401k, figure out what you need to save, and then figure out what's left over.
That's right.
And that's what you can afford.
That becomes your spendable. I mean, I know for me, it's like I own my office space. That my old practice is still there practicing. We were bought by a DSO. They don't want to own the space. They're renting from me. I had borrowed some money on it, and I borrowed money at less than 3%. That was a pretty good, smart thing to do, right?
Yeah.
I'm never paying, and I could have paid it off. I just chose not to pay it off because 3%, that's found money today.
Yeah.
But that all of a sudden, when I borrowed the money to buy, I built a little mountain house. I was smart. I had the ability to go do these things. I'm getting ready to pay that off next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, all that money is just going back in my pocket for vacations with family and trips. And that's all of my discretionary money.
Yeah.
And so I could say for me, at the end of my career, I own my house. I'll own the office space. I own most of a second house. I have a nice nest egg that I've built in my retirement account. Those are the things that we want all of our young doctors to get to.
Yeah.
to be in the position. You don't have to do all the things that I'm doing, but you want to be in a place that you have the ability to choose that. And owning your practice is clearly important, we think. That's the quickest way to get wealth. But avoiding the debts, the things that we've really talked about, being smart. It's your money. I always say to doctors, where's the best place for your money? Your pocket, not somebody else's.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's trying to offer you a deal, and I guess we haven't even really talked about bad investments.
Oh,
Because everybody's got, oh, doctor, it's going to return. You're going to double your money in 2 years.
we can have a couple episodes on that,
Yeah.
Scott.
Yeah, for sure. So, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Be smart. Take care of your money because it is your money. And minimize debt to the extent that you can. We've talked about the good debt, but the bad debt is just something that, as we kind of talk about, is you just really don't have a plan to pay it back.
Yeah.
You're getting self gratification. You're
Yeah.
and then sometimes you got to go get a little bit of bad debt. Something may happen.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to go put a new roof on, and it's going to cost you
Yeah.
10 grand.
Life happens.
Life happens.
You need a car to get to work.
But you're going to figure out,
Yeah.
how am I going to go pay that back?
Yeah.
And
No, I think bad debt is, in summary, it's like bad debt is when you spend money on something that's depreciating, like a car or a boat, right? But good debt is money spent on something that's going to provide a return and provide you with more income.
I'll bring up one quick story,
Yeah.
which is, I may have told it previously, but patients are going to give you, as dentists, they're going to chop you all day long about, you're sticking it to me, or I'm paying for your home, or I'm paying for your car, and I had a patient who said, he said to me, it was a relatively new patient, for the guy's practice I bought. He said, I'm paying for your boat. I used to tell the other doctor I was paying for his boat, and I'm going to pay for your boat. And I listened to it one time, and the next time he brought it up, I just looked at him and I just said, listen, I said, John, I said, at the end of the day, we all have a boat. It can be whatever you may be, it could be a big house. It could be a boat.
Yeah.
I said, I wouldn't have a damn boat if you paid for it. Boats are not my thing. But
Everybody
I
has
said,
their vice.
here's my boat. I said, I got one son in med school and 2 in college. And that's where my discretionary income is going to help them, because I'm trying to minimize their debt somewhat. So, So we all have a boat. We just want it to be a boat, a small enough boat, and one that you can pay for. Don't go get the biggest boat on the planet and strut around in it, because at some point that boat's going to sink. So
That's absolutely right.
So anyway, we appreciate your time as always. We hope you've gleaned a little bit of guidance and advice, and we look forward to our next episode with you.
All right. Until next one, Scott.
Thanks.